At last, the cool character we've all been waiting for is finally here. Yep, who else but Tribbie, one of the cutest characters that most Honkai Star Rail players have been waiting for. I know that due to the many changes to her kit in the last beta version, many players have already discouraged taking Tribbie. But it's clear that Tribbie has a unique kit and is different from most other Harmony units. One of the cool things about Tribbie is that she's a Harmony character, but she's got this unique kit that lets her launch follow-up attack on all enemies whenever a teammate uses their ultimate, whether it's an attack or not. So far, no other Harmony support character can do that. So, if you're thinking of picking up Tribbie in version 3.1, you've come to the right place. I'm Hoyostation, and we're going to dive deep into the ultimate guide for Tribbie version 3.1. Let's do this. Do you have a character or weapon in the game that you really want but you don't have enough Stellar Jades? Here's a smarter way to recharge your favorite games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Look no further than Lootbar. Lootbar is the most reliable top-up platform. It saves up to 20% for all orders compared with the official channel, and it provides an 80% off for your first purchase. It's 100% safe as you will only be using your UID. We will buy pack for 3,000 Stellar Jades for $42, which otherwise would have costed $50. Totally saving $7.5. We received the crystals we purchased in the last than 3 minutes. All recharges will be done through the official channel with miHoyo, which allows you to enjoy all top-up offers. Ready to level up your gaming experience? Check the link in the description to get the amazing discount. Okay, as usual, before we dive into her kit, let's talk about her base stats. Tribbie's got base stats that are pretty similar to other characters from her path. For instance, her base HP is on par with One Mace, and her base speed is similar to Sunday's. Actually, this makes sense, since as a support character who can also deal damage with follow-up attacks, high speed isn't essential. With a slow speed, we can use a rally called Poet of Morning Collapse, which significantly increases the critical rate. The base attack is also reasonable, given that it's not too large. This character has scaling against HP, so attack isn't that important. However, what's interesting is that Tribbie has a base defense that's greater than Harmony characters in general, at 728. This makes this character a little more tanky. First, let's talk about Tribbie's basic attack. It's pretty unique and different from other characters on similar paths. Her basic attack, 100 Rockets, gives quantum damage based on Tribbie's maximum HP. On top of the scaling from maximum HP, her basic attack also attacks enemies in a blast, hitting 3 at once. She is one of the only Harmony characters that can do a blast attack, and it's a key feature that sets her apart. On top of that, her blast attack works really well with the ultimate's effect, which adds extra damage based on the number of enemies she is attacking. So, if Tribbie hits 3 enemies with each basic attack, she will trigger 3 extra pieces of damage. Pretty cool, right? Now let's check out Tribbie's skill, where the gifts go. It's pretty straightforward, but it's a game changer. It gives a luminosity stack that lasts for 3 Tribbie turns. When Tribbie has that stack, it boosts the all-type resistant penetration of all teammates by 24%. That's a solid effect, right? It's like getting an all-type resistant penetration that's basically the same as One Mace ultimate, but without the delay. Resistant penetration basically lets you ignore the enemy's resistance by a certain amount. For example, if our enemy has a wind resistance of 40%, the character's damage will be reduced because of that resistance. But with this resistant penetration, the enemy's resistance effect will be ignored by a percentage of the existing resistant penetration effect, which will make the damage dealt by your characters go up. This effect will be very influential if the enemy has a strong resistance to the element. On top of the interesting buff effect, Tribbie's skill will definitely have 100% uptime during the battle as long as you keep an eye on the duration of Tribbie's luminosity stack at the bottom of her character display. Also, since Tribbie is a bit slow, it will be a breeze to maintain the effect of this buff. Now let's talk about the ultimate of Tribbie called Gas Who Lives Here. This ultimate will create a zone and deal quantum damage to all enemies equal to 30% of the Tribbie's maximum HP. As long as this zone is active, the damage received by the enemy will increase by 30%. Also, every time an enemy is attacked, it will cause an extra quantum damage equal to 12% of the Tribbie's maximum HP to the target with the most HP. The zone will last for 2 turns and the duration will decrease by 1 turn each turn the Tribbie starts. It's also worth noting that the damage received by this enemy affects all types of damage given, including critical damage, damage over time, and even super break damage. On top of increasing the damage received by the enemy, it also provides extra quantum damage to the enemy with the most HP, based on the number of enemies attacked by teammates. For example, if your character gives damage in a blast to 3 enemies like the basic attack owned by Tribbie, the additional damage will appear 3 times to the enemy with the most HP among the 3 enemies. So, the more enemies that are attacked at once, the more damage will be given to the enemy with the largest HP. This is great for DPS characters that can attack in area or blast, like Zerta, Mighty, Blade, Yunli, and others. At first, this ultimate effect seems similar to Robin's, but there's a key difference. Robin will only attack one random enemy if the hit exceeds one target and will deal damage to the target if the attack is a single target. So it won't have any impact if we use character with area attacks. Tribbie, on the other hand, requires our DPS to attack in an area so that the additional damage cost can be maximized. Alright, so now we're going to dive into the juicy, super important part of Tribbie's kit, her talent called Busy as Tribbie. Here's the deal. When her teammates launch their ultimate, Tribbie launches a follow-up attack and deals quantum damage, which scales from Tribbie's maximum HP to all enemies. This effect can be triggered once per character. And when Tribbie uses her ultimate, it resets the usage count for her teammates. If any enemy is defeated before the follow-up attack is triggered, then the follow-up attack will be triggered on the new enemy that enters the battle. Basically, this talent means that Tribbie will launch a follow-up attack to all every time Tribbie's teammates launch ultimate. There's a limit of 1 launch per ultimate, so with a full lineup of 4 characters including Tribbie, you can launch a maximum of 3 follow-up attacks. If you reuse Tribbie's ultimate, it resets the effect, meaning you have to use Tribbie's ultimate after your teammates launch an ultimate so that Tribbie's follow-up attacks can be triggered continuously. It's pretty cool talent because Tribbie can actually damage all the enemy on the team, but we've got to be quick to charge her ultimate so we can keep using it. The best part is that Tribbie can deal area damage right off the bat, without having to wait her turn or refill her energy after using advanced attacks. And when you combine this talent with the Hertas kit, it's like adding fuel to the fire. The Hertas gives allies extra energy for each enemy they attack, making the ultimate launch even faster. Then we will talk about Tribbie's technique called If You're Happy and You Know It. When you use this technique and enter battle, Tribbie will get a numerosity stack that lasts for 3 turns. Basically, this is a skill from Tribbie's that immediately launched when the battle begins. This technique will definitely let us save SP at the beginning of the battle because Tribbie's skill is already active. It's a pretty straightforward effect, I know, but it will definitely be handy in battle later on. Next, we will check out Tribbie's minor traces, which are pretty interesting. Not all characters have minor traces like this. Tribbie gets an extra critical damage of 37.3%, critical rate of 12%, and HP of 10%. These 3 minor traces are great for Tribbie, especially since we can see critical rate and critical damage bonuses at the same time on a character that can dealing damage to enemies. This will make it a little easier for us to build this character. The HP bonus is also quite good, considering that all attacks launched by Tribbie come from scaling her maximum HP. Finally, let's talk about her traces. There are 3 interesting ones to discuss. First, there's Pebble at Crossroads. When the battle starts, Tribbie instantly recovers 3 energy. After teammates attack, Tribbie replenishes 1.5 energy for each target hit. With this trace, you will get 3 energy at the beginning of the battle. And there's an extra effect that recovers 1.5 energy for each enemy your team hits. So if a teammate attacks in AoE and hits 5 enemies, you will get 7.5 energy. Keep in mind that Tribbie needs 120 energy to use her ultimate, but with this trace, she can use her ultimate right at the beginning of the battle, even without energy regeneration. Very interesting, right? Now for the second trace we will discuss, it's called Glass Ball with Wings. When the ultimate zone is active, the maximum HP of Tribbie will increase by 9% of the average maximum HP of all teammates. This is a pretty good trace where the greater the maximum HP owned by Tribbie's teammates, the greater the additional maximum HP obtained by Tribbie. This is great because it not only increases Tribbie's maximum HP, but also boosts its damage output. Characters like Mighty, Huo, Blade, and so on, who have HP scaling, are perfect with Tribbie. Now let's talk about the third trace, Lamp Outside the Wall. It increases the damage cost by 72% when using follow-up attack that comes from Tribbie's talent, and you can stack this effect up to 3 times. It lasts for 3 turns. This trace has an interesting effect too. With this trace, Tribbie's extra damage can go up to 216%. She's a Harmony unit, so her HP scaling isn't huge, but this damage percentage will help Tribbie's damage output a lot. You can also keep this trace active with ultimate launches from teammates that are triggered at set times. Finally, let's talk about her EIDOLON, the Rite of Sugar Scoop. This EIDOLON has an effect when the ultimate zone is active and after teammates attack the enemy. There's an extra true damage of 24% of the total damage attack on the target that's been given extra damage from the zone. But here's the cool part. This extra true damage only goes to the enemy with the highest HP. So instead of hitting low HP enemies, this true damage gets combined to take down the big bosses with the biggest HP. That's a pretty cool way to deal a lot of damage to the elites or bosses with the biggest HP, right? And Guide of Dream Tour, the second EIDOLON, is no slouch either. It cranks up the zone's damage by 120% and adds an extra damage to the enemy when the zone gives out more damage. So this second EIDOLON is all about boosting the enemy's damage and upping the percentage of extra damage it causes. EIDOLON 2 is all about boosting the resulting damage, which is great for increasing your overall output. Then for the fourth EIDOLON, Piece of Empathy Bond gives defense ignore to the damage your teammates deal when the Luminosity stack is active. So later on, if you've got EIDOLON 4, Tribbie's skill will give resistant penetration and defense ignore to all your teammates. This is a pretty interesting effect because it can boost the damage output of your teammates by increasing defense ignores on the enemy. And this effect will keep going as long as we have the Luminosity stack on Tribbie. For the sixth EIDOLON, Morrow of Starshine, Tribbie's ultimate attack immediately launches a follow-up attack on all enemies. The damage caused by the follow-up attack from Tribbie's talent increased by 729%. EIDOLON 6th effect increases the damage of Tribbie's follow-up attack on the enemy again, but with an extraordinary number. It's quite reasonable considering this is the effect of EIDOLON 6, right? Finally, we will chat about her signature Lightcone. Signature Lightcone named If Time Were a Flower, which has some pretty cool effects. First, it boosts the user's critical damage by 36%. Then, after launching a follow-up attack, the user gets 12 more energy and a prestige stack that lasts for 2 turns. When the user has prestige, the critical damage of all teammates goes up by 48%. Another fact is that when entering battle, users will feel 21 energy and get prestige for 2 turns. These Lightcone's effects are pretty interesting because in addition to increasing the user's critical damage, it can also give additional critical damage to teammates as long as the user launches follow-up attacks. Plus, your follow-up attack will recover extra energy. This is great effect for Tribbie, giving her more energy to consistently launch her ultimates and add critical damage to herself and her teammates. So, is this Lightcone worth getting? Of course, yes. If you can't afford it, there are still several other options, such as Dance Dance Dance, a very good Lightcone used by support because it can increase the action value of a team when the user launches ultimate. Alright, let's talk about Tribbie's builds. There are 2 types, the slow build and the normal speed build. I'd suggest the slow speed build since we don't need to hunt for speed substances, and it's easier to manage stats. The normal speed build isn't bad either, and it's a good choice if you have the stat from the relic I'll talk about now. For the slow speed build, we are using 4 sets of Poet of Morning Collapse, 2 sets that will boost the user's quantum damage, and 4 sets that will drop the user's speed below 110 and 95 and up the critical rate by 20% or 32%. This will also be active on the user's Memo Sprite. Later on, Tribbie's speed might be low, but we will still get a 32% critical rate, which lets us focus on critical damage and the HP percent of other relics. This low build is better if you're using her signature light cone, otherwise you will need a team that attacks more often and covers more area. Tribbie's signature light cone gives her enough energy to use the ultimate right away, even though she moves slowly. For a normal speed build, we can use 2 sets of Longevous Disciple and 2 sets of Speed Messenger Traversing Hackerspace or Sacredos Relief Ordeal. You can also use the last alternative set, namely 4 sets of Eagle of Twilight line, which will provide advance forward by 25% when launching the ultimate. The stat that will be achieved is speed above 120, along with a good critical rate and critical damage ratio. Hey, just a heads up for the planner you are using. If you go with normal speed, you will need 2 sets of Sprightly Von Wacht. That will bump up the 5 energy regeneration rate, and when your speed hits 120, you will get a 40% boost when entering battle. So we will start with the basic attack and then move on to ultimate with Tribbie. If you use slow speed, you can use 2 sets of Lushaka, which will provide energy regeneration rate and also increase attack in the first lineup character by 12%. For other planner alternatives, you can use Fleet of the Ageless to increase maximum HP and also increase attack teammates, or use the latest planner called Bone Collection's Serene Demisni, which will increase the user's maximum HP. If maximum HP is 5000 or more, it will increase the user's critical damage and memo sprite by 28%. Now for the status recommendations that you must use for Tribbie are as follows. Now let's talk about the light cone that's great for Tribbie. Her signature light cone, If Time Were a Flower, is the main one, and I talked about its effect earlier. It adds energy when you enter battle and launches follow-up attacks, and it gives critical damage to users and teammates. But it's not essential if you're not planning on using this light cone signature. You can use Dance Dance Dance, which is pretty effective, or Mashing Cogs, which gives energy if the user's attacks or is attacked every turn. Other light cones that can increase energy, such as Memories of the Past, can also be used if you don't have any of the previous light cones. Finally, we've reached the last discussion in this video, where we will talk about the best characters and teams to pair with Tribbie. As we know, Tribbie is a character that can provide buffs and attack through her kit. Also, Tribbie's energy replenishment is affected by the number of enemies attacked by teammates. So it's clear that Tribbie will be paired with characters that have blast or AoE type attacks. Tribbie pairs well with the Herta. The Herta has an area attack, and she will always bring one other erudition on her team, making charging energy from Tribbie easier because there will be 2 characters providing AoE attacks. The Herta and Tribbie have similar energy collection, which is based on the enemy being attacked, so they will work well together. Tribbie is going to be a buffer as well as an energy battery because she can attack enemies in an area through basic attack, follow-up attacks, and her ultimate. The next character to be paired with Tribbie is Mighty, which will also be released in the same version. Mighty's attacks are pretty frequent, especially when launching enhanced skills, so the more energy Tribbie gets, the better, especially since all Mighty's attacks are blast type. Also, Tribbie has a trace that increases her maximum HP based on the average HP of her teammates. Mighty's maximum HP is very high when he is in Vendetta mode. The damage caused by Mighty will increase due to the penetration resistant effect, and the enemy will receive more damage. The third character that Tribbie pairs well with is Yunli. Yunli is a DPS who attacks in the area through parry from her ultimate, which will synergize with Tribbie. And also, other buffs are very useful for Yunli because this resistant penetration is quite necessary for Yunli. With Yunli who can save her ultimate, we can also use it once and then ultimate Tribbie and then continue with Yunli's ultimate, where Tribbie will launch follow-up attacks consistently. Alright, I think the last character that fits Tribbie is Blade. Why? Because Blade has the same HP scaling as Tribbie and also attacks in Blast. Blade can also attack using a follow-up attacks, which makes his frequency of attacks not inferior to Mighty's. Also, Blade has a large enough maximum HP to increase Tribbie's maximum HP through her trace. Blade also gets a nice boost in damage thanks to buff effects and his Blast type attacks. Okay guys, maybe that's all for this video. What do you think? If there's anything you want to ask, please type it in the comments down below. And don't forget to check out my other videos because they are no less cool. Thanks for watching, stay safe, healthy, and see you in the next video.